Hello fellow readers, today I am here reviewing Volume 1 of Shiden Kanzaki's light novel series Black Bullets. Now, this book's a little bit different from a lot of the other ones that I've read, as it takes place in a post-apocalyptic dystopian type future where humanity has been forced into a massive city that is surrounded by a barrier, and that barrier is there to protect them against these creatures, essentially, called the Gastria. Now, the Gastria are more than just monsters. In a way, they are a virus. And if they attack a human being and inject that human being with their venom, the human being themselves will become a Gastria. Now, all over the world, the Gastria have invaded, and so humanity's been forced into these sort of pockets of civilization in various continents around the world. This story focuses on main character Rantaro, and Rantaro is teamed with a young girl named Enju. Now, Enju is a member of what are called the Cursed Children. Cursed Children are children who, while in utero, were infected with Gastria virus, and because it infected them while they were in utero when they're born, their bodies are far more tolerant to the virus, and they don't immediately turn into Gastria like normal human beings do that are attacked. Instead, their bodies actually develop some of the Gastria's traits. So the Gastria can heal incredibly fast. They're far stronger, and they're just these superpowered creatures. And so these girls have these abilities, which means that they are sort of the perfect idea for humanity to use to fight against the Gastria. And Rantaro himself he's a normal human being, but he is in charge of overseeing Enju and helping to guide her, and as a partnership they hunt particular Gastria outbreaks within the city of Tokyo. Now, of course, it wouldn't be a light novel without some massive threat to this society, and so the main part of the story is Rantaro and Enju trying to find out what this threat is, what the nature of it is, and having to try and stop it from destroying what's left of humanity in Japan. This book is kind of a mixed bag. There's a lot of really cool and good things in this book. I liked the world building, the pacing and the writing and the imagery, particularly in the first part of the novel where he's really focused on building the world and giving you these insights to how the world works, are really cool. And he does build in that whole idea of the conflicting notion that the cursed children are vital to humanity's survival, but at the same time, a lot of people hate them because they see them as being Gastria. And of course, with it being only 10 years since the whole Gastria War, a lot of people blame them and have a lot of hatred because many people, well, almost every person alive, at least lost someone to the Gastria. The characters, too, are hinted at with a lot of cool backstory. For instance, Rantaro's boss is Kisara, who is his own age, and she is part of this very affluent, wealthy family called the Tendo. But she's chosen to leave the family, and Rantaro himself, we have sort of this backstory of how he couldn't accept that his parents were dead, and how for many years he continued to search for them and believe that they were alive. We also find out that Enju has only really been with Rantaro for about a year, and he hints that she was a very different person before he met her. So there's a lot of these cool ideas that are put in place as backstory for the characters. The biggest problem with this book is that it doesn't really explore it. The characters are given these sort of tidbit backstory which tantalizes you and makes you think, oh, this will be really cool, but then for the most part they just behave as your typical archetypal characters. Rantaro being the typical hero, Enju, unfortunately and kind of creepily, being the Lolita figure, and Kisara being the somewhat stoic, somewhat cold, big-breasted, beautiful girl. There are a ton of action sequences, though, in the book, which are really, really well written. Like I said, the world itself is fairly fleshed out, and overall, the story's not bad, but there's just a couple things that you're going to find yourself scratching your head going, Well, if Rentaro can do that now, why didn't he do that earlier to keep from getting his butt kicked? And why are characters doing this now? Because we weren't really given any headway in advance that this was going to happen. There's supposed to be, I guess, some shocking reveals as you get towards the end of the book about characters and their motivations, but because those characters weren't really fleshed out and because those motivations weren't as heavily hinted at throughout the book, it just comes off as sort of an afterthought, a sudden occurrence that instead of being a really cool and deep sort of conspiracy aspect of the book, just comes off as being something that the author threw in to bait us to go into the future series. Those things aside, I actually really enjoyed the novel overall. And as long as you take a little bit with a grain of salt, and as long as you just accept that there's not going to be any massive new ground broken, it is a fairly decent book. Like I said, the atmosphere of it, the description of the world, are a lot more evocative imagery-wise than a number of other light novels that I've read. So I appreciate how the book is written, particularly, like I said, the beginning. The first, like the prologue, is actually really, really well done and just grabs you right away and pulls you into the world and into the novel. So overall, Black Bullet, kind of a mixed bag. A lot of cherry-picked ideas from other anime and light novels that are out there, but overall execution, fairly decent. Just would have liked to seen a lot more done with the characters instead of making them just flat. And, as I said, some cool ideas story-wise, but because they're just sprung on you sort of out of nowhere, they don't make as much sense as they could have if they had been better interwoven with the story previously. So those are my thoughts on Black Bullet. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you come back for more. Click on the subscribe button to keep up with all my future light novel reviews. I hope to see you in the next video. Until then, bye-bye for now.